Please proceed.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to our August webinar on best practices of best and brightest companies. And it is my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Klug, who is the President and CEO of the National Association of Business Resources and its sister organizations, Michigan Business and Professional Association and Corp Magazine. During her tenure, Jennifer has launched more than 100 new programs at the associations and large-scale events such as the Best and Brightest Companies to Work For, which is now running in Detroit, Grand Rapids, Chicago, Houston, San Francisco, Dallas, Fort Worth, Milwaukee, Atlanta, and San Diego, and Boston very soon, as well as the National Best and Brightest Companies to Work For. And it's my pleasure to announce that we will be starting a national peer group for HR professionals and a virtual virtual setting. So if you would like more information about that, please add it to your comments at the end of the program. Jennifer is actually going to be asking questions all during the program, so use your chat feature and I will be relaying them to her along the way. We are broadcast only on the web, so obviously those of you who are hooked up through your speakers or headphones are listening. And I want to tell you that we will be following up the webinar with a survey for you to receive your recertification credits. So the survey that is at the end of the webinar is not the survey that gives you your recertification certificate. I will be sending that separately afterwards. So thank you again for joining us, and I will turn this over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Jan. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here with all of you. Just to make this a little bit more fun and engaging, we have a couple of things that we want to do. So I will be pausing for questions throughout the program. We have different modules that we'll be talking about, and I'll take little breaks periodically. Make sure all your questions are answered, and again, use your chat feature or your Q&A tab on your screens. And then also, we thought it would be kind of fun to have little prizes. So we have two $25 gift certificates for the best question, as well as if you want to share a best practice as we're presenting a lot of best practices, you can also share a best practice. And you can do that here, and then we're also tweeting. So our hashtag for the Best and Brightest programs is hashtag 101BB, again, hashtag 101BB. And we have some team members following you all on Twitter, and just excited to be here. So let's get started. Few things. So what are we and what do we do? So the Best and Brightest Companies to Work For, we're a service organization. We're the only service organization that does this program across the country. And what we do and why we do this is a lot different. So why we do this program is because we want to have better businesses, and by sharing best practices, sharing data, really swimming through the weeds of what issues are related to engagement, enrichment, recruitment, retention, we make the lives of your employees better. And by impacting the lives of your employees, they go home healthier, happier. We impact the community as a whole. So that's why we do it. We want to make a difference. The process is we basically score the companies. We ask for company data. It's a significant survey. There's 12 areas that we score on. We score and rank them. And then we categorize some of the top winners as elite winners. And we do this in 10 regions across the country, as well as a national program. There's a national competition. So we have about 1,600 winners across the country. And there's about a 10-to-1 scale. So for every winner we have, there's about 10 companies or 9 other companies that we weeded through the process and they did not become a Best and Brightest employer. The most critical component, what I'm going to be sharing today, is that we survey employees. So we believe what the employer is telling us, but we validate it. It's trust but verify. We verify the data by the employee data that comes through, and we've surveyed over 250,000 employees as of date. for this program. So the data today, what we're going to be sharing today is we're going to be going through employer trends based off of the survey, best practices that our team thought were interesting and unique, and then employee feedback. And the employee feedback tells us how we're doing as a nation as it relates to employee engagement. And then we also will be talking about some other employee feedback. Where did we score the highest? Where do we score the lowest as a nation? And keep in mind that these are the best and brightest companies. So let's talk about that for a second. So in the news, it's trending that the American workforce is unengaged. And Gallup did this big study on it and whatnot. So what I'm here to tell you is the data that we're sharing doesn't reflect any of that. This is data of employers that have engaged employees. And I'll share how we ranked them, and I'll share how we scored on that. But employees are telling us that they're engaged in their jobs. So how do we measure that? Well, these employees that were in the companies that we're referring to today have told us their work is appreciated. They can be themselves on the job. They understand their job and are provided with the necessary tools. There's mutual respect among team members. And they're proud to work for their organization. And there's other areas that we score as well, and these are some of the higher scores. So when you hear the trends and the data, our winners score in the high 80s and 90s as it relates to employee engagement, not the 20% that you hear nationally. All right, so let's dive into some of these employer trends. So this first section, we're going to share a lot of stats on what other employers are doing. So let's do this. All right, so 97% of the winners, their HR executives meet either weekly or daily with the CEO. So that table, that prestigious strategic planning table, it looks like we're there and we've made it. So my background's in human resources. When I started, it was still called personnel, and we did not have a seat at the table when we were paper pushers. So we are now at the strategic planning table with the CEOs. The tenure is very good with winners. 34% have an average tenure between 6 and 10 years, and 11% have a tenure of 11 to 20 years. That's very good data, good retention. So the employers are telling us this is how they get these are the top 4 areas that they get employees. Online job postings, employee referrals, internal job postings, and social media. And I think the top area, if I remember correctly, is employee referrals. So this is how recruitment is happening at the best and brightest companies. All right, so let's talk about turnover. This is pretty cool data as well. So 100% of our winners have a less than 10% turnover, with almost 40% being less than 5%. So they're doing things right. The data supports their practices. And what we're trying to show you all as we go through this is that culture is driving performance, and culture is more important than we think it is out in the workforce. And so driving culture drives performance. All right, some other trends, and I'll just shoot through these. 84% of winners offer on-the-spot recognition. Remember, one of the things for employee engagement is, do I feel appreciated? And these are very low budget things. I'll be sharing some best practices with you on this in just a minute. But do your employees feel appreciated? And is there a way for employees to recognize other employees in the moment? So this is important. 33% of the best and brightest companies pay above market. So one of the areas that we're going to focus on is compensation and benefits, which is one of the lowest scoring areas for the best and brightest. So this is interesting because if 33% pay above market, what's the issue with compensation and benefits? We'll get to that shortly. All right. 65% of winners invest 1 to 5% of gross revenue in education and development, and 12% invest more than 6%, and 96% is on soft skills, offer soft skills. So what does that mean? That means the best and brightest companies have found the formula to really train and engage their employees by investing in training and development. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for just a second. So that kind of sets the stage for the best and brightest. I would like to just pause here for a second and see if there's any questions with some of that data. Jan, how are we doing on questions? Oh, I lost Jan.
Hi, sorry, I was still muted. We are getting questions right now about will people have access to the slides, and will we be recording this? And yes, we have recorded, so you'll be able to access all the information on the Best and Brightest website right after.
Wonderful.
And sorry, I got to make sure I check the mute button.
That's okay. That reminds me that we have a best practices resource guide. So we take hundreds and hundreds of stats and best practices, and we publish it once a year with our partner, Corp Magazine. And we'll provide a link at the end on where you can download that guide. And each year we update it with even more best practices, and those go out to all of our winners as well. All right, so let's dive into these best practices. Ooh, my favorite. I'm not supposed to have favorites, but I do have a couple favorites. Cascade Engineering. Cascade Engineering is a manufacturer. Some of the things they design and produce are things that you use in your home. For example, they do a lot of plastic injection molding. They do a lot of car parts. So those recycling bins at the end of your street, the big tall ones, they make those. So we've had the pleasure of their CEO and their chairman and founder speaking at our events, and they're quite an incredible company. You would never think that a manufacturing firm would be so engaged with the community and so engaged with making a difference. They're a B Corporation, and I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on two of their programs. So they're very focused on sustainability. They have zero waste. And no, you're not seeing double vision. What they did is they got together as a company and said, we want to solve world problems. And they put together the world problems that they want to address, and they have a solution in each category. So, for example, if they're addressing waste, they're sending zero as a manufacturer to landfill. So two programs that are really interesting. They have a returning citizen program. They do not ask, and this is becoming a trend actually, they do not ask if anybody has had a felony until after they're through the interview process and they're hired. And they don't tag or label anyone that has a felony because they want to bring people back into the workforce and not penalize them because they've been in the prison system. Obviously, they screen out for the real bad stuff that they don't want, but they feel like everybody has a chance to come back. They also have a welfare to career program where they have people that are homeless and unemployed, and they train them and bring them back into the workforce. So I know a lot of times we're talking about the talent shortage and unique ways to find talent. Well, the employees there really rally around these programs about making the world a better place. Okay, Parker's out of Grand Rapids as well, and they are a motion control technology company, and they also have mechanical equipment. So one of the cool things that they do is they bring on-site car maintenance. They do car detailing, oil changes, windshield repair, tire rotation, and they do that at their workplace so that it helps with work-life balance. Mondo is out of New York. So Mondo has 3 levels of benefits. Their top-tier benefits that they offer their employees are called luxury benefits. Included in those luxury benefits is to help with work-life balance. They offer house cleaning services to their employees, and they offer babysitting reimbursement. So think about that. Think about the struggles between work and home, and maybe you got to work late and you need to get a sitter. Well, they'll reimburse you for the babysitter. Something else that they do at 3 years, at your 3-year anniversary, you get a tropical vacation paid for by the company. And at 4 years, you're required to take a 2-week sabbatical. And I believe they're a staffing agency for high-tech individuals. Okay, LaSalle. LaSalle, their CEO is incredible. We've had him speak. In fact, we had him do a webinar not too long ago. LaSalle's a really good example where the CEO is driving culture. And some of our top elite, highest scoring winners, almost all of them, their CEO is driving culture, and the CEO is very involved in HR directives and engagement of employees. So LaSalle is no different. High-scoring company. I think they were an overall winner in one of our regions. And so they treat the employee anniversary date as like a holiday for them. It might as well be like a religious holiday or Christmas. So they call them rebirth days. They're given a speech by the CEO. Their desk is decorated. There's balloons, pictures, and then they get a nice gift with it. And when I say a nice gift, we're talking a nice gift. Depending on their job, they might get a new suit, or they might get an iPad or new technology or laptop or something like that. Okay, Millhouse. So Millhouse is out of Chicago. They're really cool. This is also one of my favorites. So obviously they are very invested in engineering, in the STEM. So for those of you that don't know STEM, it's science, technology, engineering, and math. So they're really focused on that. And what they do, this is a really good example of seeking out diversity, seeking out multiculturalism. They go into underserved populations, they identify talent, and they recruit young talent out of underserved populations and train them up, offer them internship programs, and then hire them. 50% of their firm is minorities, identified as an ethnic minority. 50%, because they actively made that part of their recruiting strategy. Okay, Shamrock is out of Rhode Island. So they have some very interesting wellness things. We're seeing some trends here as well. So about 3 years ago, I was giving this presentation and talking about an on-site chaplain and bringing religion into the workplace. It's a new cutting-edge thing. More and more people are doing this. So Rhode Island, Shamrock Financial Services also has an on-site corporate chaplain. They host prayer meetings. They host meditation and mindfulness as part of their wellness experience. I have no opinion on it. It's neither good nor bad, but this is a trend. And so often we hear that religion should stay out of the workplace. Many companies are bringing it in. Something else that they do, and this is a wellness trend, is they're offering financial literacy and budgeting courses. One of the largest stresses for your employees is their home finances. And the data shows this. When we talk about retirement and retirement investments through the company, there is a lot of negativity around that, and so companies are starting to address it. So this one's interesting. Orthopedic physicians, they're out of Alaska, they're in Anchorage, and this just shows how some of your subtle language and how your language and how you present yourself as a company speaks volumes. They feel those signs that says, do not use my soap, or do not use my lotion, or make sure this door is closed, all these don't rule signs that are put up, or did you close the refrigerator door, those kind of things. They think that's negative, and they think that should be discouraged and communication should be encouraged. So I thought that was interesting. Puma's out of Boston. Puma's very interesting. Obviously, they're a large firm. They have very cool workspace, and our team went out and saw it. And a few cool things of what they do is they have parent and child offices. So if you're bringing your child to work, it's encouraged. And they have a whole suite of offices that you can sit with your child and work. They also have lactation rooms and wellness rooms. And then they have an on-site, not everyone can do this, this is a big firm, but they have an on-site mini spa kind of thing with a manicurist, massages, iced coffee. And then they got something interesting is kombucha teas on tap, which is pretty cool. Okay, Mammoth is out of Oregon. So this is an example of a low budget. So I just gave you an example of high budget. This is a low budget wellness initiative. So what Mammoth does, and many winners do this as well because we have winners that are small, medium, and large size firms. They have periodic challenges, wellness challenges with a stamp card. At the end of the challenge, you turn your stamp card in, and if you have enough stamp cards or enough credits, you can be entered in to win a prize at the end of the challenge. And then they go on to the next challenge. And we're talking really low budget stuff and such things as like drinking water, getting 7 hours of sleep, did you walk 5,000 steps. And it's a way of caring for the employees and leading them to it without spending a ton of money. Okay, another one of my favorites. Confirmed Biosciences. They are a biosciences firm out of San Diego. So this is a really cool example where you have a diversity and inclusion initiative combined with a community project. And if you are not doing community projects with your employees, you're behind. These are things of reaching out to the community and having your team members dive into the community. We score on it. We've raised the weight on it year over year, and it's something that's absolutely critical, especially with millennials. So what this example is they have everyone bring a dish of their culture, whatever their ethnicity is, whatever their heritage is, or any family traditional meal that they can prepare and bring. 2 times a month, 2 times a month, they bring in this food. They share their culture, they share the recipes, but before they sit down and eat and learn about each other's background, they pack up 300 lunches for their local homeless shelter. So that's twice a month they're packing up. So once a month they're packing up 600 meals for the homeless and have a diversity and inclusion program. Does that cost any money? No. Okay, so C4 Analytics is also out of Boston. So they have a pretty cool thing that they do as well. They have relaxation day. They have manicures. Here's something interesting. So, you know, if manicures are getting old for you or massages are getting old for you, they do improv trips to the driving range. That helps with, you know, there's a lot of men that don't want a massage. They can go and do some golf, women as well. And they do yoga sessions, and then they have a foosball tournament, bowling night, and then they have a week-long bake-off where different employees, they have a kitchen in their office, and they have a bake-off, which is also interesting and very low budget. Okay, and I want to make sure, I'm going to just pause here for a second. I want to make sure you're sharing your best practices, and I want to make sure that you're putting questions for us. And Jan, how's it going? Any questions so far?
Nothing yet. I think they're busily writing down all of the good ideas. I especially like the idea of the tropical vacation in the middle of winter. Just saying.
So Jan's on my team, so that's a hint, hint, Jennifer. We need tropical vacations. Oh, duly noted, duly noted. All right. So let's keep moving here. AeroStream is out of Chicago. They have, now here, this is really interesting. A lot of times employers challenge us, especially when they don't win. And they challenge us and say something must be wrong. And we show them their data and we show them their scores. 9 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, it's because they're not communicating enough on what they are doing, and they're not engaging their employees in the solutions of what they're doing or what they're doing around the community or what they're doing for diversity and inclusion. They're not educating and communicating. What we like about AeroStream is they have these discussions, their vision and their strategy is discussed every Monday. and then their full team meetings twice a month, they make those fun. Their communications are very aggressive, and they have employee talent featured. So a lot of winning companies have their own employee bands, or there's a performer or what have you, and they turn them into a very fun, so they call them jamborees, and so that the meetings aren't stuffy and engages everyone. All right, so Hoover makes bulk containers, industrial-sized containers for shipping, and what they do, and this is very interesting because you wouldn't think this type of industry could do this. They are on a 4, and I'm not sure if it's required or if it's optional, so I need to look into that. But they're on a 4 10-hour day work week, and they have 3-day weekends. So that's a pretty interesting shift in the mindset as far as how to work and how to balance work and home. All right, 5 North. This is a recruitment example. They're out of New York City. Usually you have a new hire shadow somebody in their job once they start. These folks in New York, they don't. They have you shadow the position before you're hired and before you interview with the supervisor. So they want to screen out people that aren't going to like the job in the very first step of the process. Very unique and interesting. Okay. 360 Live Media is out of Washington, D.C. And what we are finding, and the data is coming out with this, is that we are finding that the most effective teams have not only transparency from leadership, but they have an environment where communication, ideas, challenging of processes, basically everyone has a voice and they're allowed to use it and they're not penalized for it. And this is not small, medium, and large size companies. I think larger firms have trouble with this because of protocol and the size of the firms. But what 360 Live Media does is they have a culture where people can speak freely, and they do checks and balances to make sure that their culture meets those needs of everyone having a voice. And we are finding statistically that those are the best teams. Okay, let's go to Houston. Let's go to the South. So All4 is an environmental control firm. What we like about this is there's a nice blend of perks that their employees have, but they make them what they call flash fun. They make them random, and they make them as surprises. So how fun would that be to be on that HR team and say, oh, what fun thing are we going to surprise our staff with this week? Well, one of the things that they have, too, is they have, for those people working late, and this is the second example I've shown on this, is they provide dinners to go so that if you're working late and you don't have enough time to make dinner for your family, you can take dinner with you. And then some of their flash fun things is they have, ice cream breaks, barbecues, March Madness basketball breaks, all kinds of fun impromptu activities. Okay, Disruptor Beam. You got to check out their website. It's the coolest thing ever. So Disruptor Beam is out of Boston. This is a very good example of where you can help the community in keeping with your mission and what you do as a company. Sometimes people do their community initiatives and they adopt a charity or they adopt a program. That's fine. But this one is directly related to their products. So for military families, they're a gaming company. For military families and those serving, they're allowed to use their games and have free currency. So it's a form of entertainment for the troops, and it's a way for them to provide that at no cost. All right, so Kelly S. Matthews, if I was in a room, I would probably get some gasps on this. They're a CPA firm. So CPA firms are very different. They're on deadlines. They have a very busy season, and there are a lot of hours in accounting and CPA work. So what they do is they have a unique flex time system. I'm not sure this works for everybody, But most of us are on either a 35-hour work week or a 40-hour work week, which is anywhere from 140 to 160 hours per month. What this CPA firm says is you need to work 130 hours per month, and you can use it however you want to. Very interesting. So it is flex time, and if you translated that to a work week, that's about 30 hours a week, which is really interesting. And then they also, and I can't tell you how many times food really on the scores for employee engagement, food. They also, during their busy season, they also have healthy food completely stocked in their kitchen. Very cool things. So hopefully you guys recognize this little gem, Baby Bell Cheese. They're a winner out of Chicago. It's actually Bell Brands. This is interesting related to wellness. They offer a premium incentive to those employees and their spouses that get their annual checkup. It's their way of keeping their employees healthy and catching things. And I happened to talk with their team, and they actually help save someone's life by doing this, forcing these, well, not forcing, but encouraging these wellness checkups. And as a reward for the employees, they don't have to pay 2 months of their employee contribution into their health care plan. All right, Epitech. Epitech's a placement firm. They do place in technology. And they have a passion for STEM, and we all know there is a shortage in need for STEM talent, and there's a lot of need for talent right now, but specifically in STEM. So they offer an annual scholarship to any of their employees. Well, they have to, I think it's 1 a year or 2 a year. For any of their employees' children that are going into STEM, they can apply for their company scholarship. Now, I know a lot of people got away from this, but it's starting to come back. Okay, FONA. FONA has been, oh wait, hang on 1 second, let me fix this. There we go. All right, so BioLegend is a biomedical manufacturer. They produce, it's in the biosciences field. They produce living organisms and things like that, very high tech. So I mentioned earlier that communications, companies think they're communicating, and when we score them, they really aren't. And this is a good example of the CEO being engaged with the communications. Remember I said the CEO needs to drive culture. Well, what he does is he shares like a story of the week or a lesson of the week, and he provides, here's what I learned today. And what's really cool about it is it's transparent. He's approachable and said, oh, this is the lesson I learned this week, and here's what we all can learn from it. Pretty cool stuff. All right, FONA, FONA International. Now we can do FONA. My apologies. All right, so FONA is a flavor manufacturer, and what they do is like if you're chewing gum and you taste it, the flavor in the gum they manufacture. And they do that for lots of foods and products. So what we are seeing, and I didn't put a ton of these in this presentation, but there's hundreds of them, and that's in our best practices resource guide. FONA has all kinds of things that they do, but related to retention, we are seeing a lot of incentives around retention. 5-year anniversaries, 10-year anniversaries, 20-year anniversaries, and incentivizing with finances or with vacations. And that's what FONA is doing here. 10 years is an increase in pay and a week's vacation. 20 years is a $20,000 bonus and another year of vacation for that year. And at 25 years, it's 25% base increase and a $25,000, up to $25,000, and a 25-day sabbatical. So we're seeing a lot of this. But FONA also has all kinds of their incentives and work-life balance, and they're one of our really high winners across the country. And this is just one example of what they do. I know they have an on-site chaplain as well, and their retention scores are incredible. So I'm going to take a little break here. So Jan, how are you doing on questions or best practices?
We have a lot of both coming in, and I think one of the common themes in the questions is, how do you decide what will work in your company? How do these companies that are doing the best practices, how do they make sure that it meets their employees' needs and that it will be successful? Do you find one way that companies are doing that?
Yes, there's a couple ways. So the first way that a lot of the best and brightest companies implement any new change or new program is they put diverse work group committees together, like a fun committee or a wellness committee, or they have different work groups within their organization. So for example, they might create a little club called Parents with Young Children, and they all get together for lunch one day. And the ideas come from these groups. Some companies have idea generators where it's a more formal system and ideas come up. They ask for it. We say, how can we engage, well, not engage you, but what can we do more for you? The ideas come up. The ideas are voted on by the employer, and then they promise to implement one or two of those a quarter. So those are different ways to do it. And there is a lot of trial and error. For example, the first example I gave, Cascade, they told us that they failed 4 or 5 times before they got it right. So being transparent with your employees is that we'll figure it out until we get it right, and getting their feedback not only before but during the implementation and throughout the program. Anything else, Jan?
Here's a great wellness program. To promote a culture of wellness and fun, we have weekly yoga and boot camp classes, as well as healthy snack choices. I knew you'd love that. And organic fruit delivery twice a week. We also have a Biggest Loser challenge once a year, and our own soccer team and Frisbee football team. So there's embracing wellness.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And who's the name of the person that submitted that one?
Lisa Gonzalez.
All right, Lisa, thank you for sharing that. That's a little bit more intense wellness. I'm not sure I would want to do the boot camp, but we are seeing that employees are actually loving their employers, caring about them, and having a fun environment to work out. That's wonderful.
Another question, especially with these gigantic cash payouts and bonuses, what are there legal and tax obligations for these?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually how the employer does it is they run it through payroll, and they apply full weight of the taxes. You know how there's a bonus tax and there's a regular tax? They take the higher of the two. So yes, absolutely. These are not checks being cashed. Any of the trips, there's a financial value put to them, and it's run through their payroll. Or it's run through their CPA, actually, at the end of the year as a perk or incentive. So you do need to consult your CPA. Maybe you should consult the CPA that works 120 hours. But you do need to consult the CPA before you implement these and make sure you're following the rules of the law. That's
great. All right, we can save some more for later.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so back to some of this data. How are we doing as a country? So I want to remind everyone that this data that I am sharing is the top of the top. These are the elite employers of the nation compared to each other, right? This is not regular businesses across the United States. These are the elite. So if the elites are having troubles in certain areas, we should all pay attention, because can you imagine what a company that's not a best and brightest company to work for is going through? So here are the top areas. Here's where we scored the highest. I can remember where diversity and inclusion was a lower score when we first started this program. I am happy to say 18 years later, the highest area of scoring is diversity and inclusion. So we're getting that right. Another high area of scoring is culture. So culture is king to be a best and brightest employer, and we have actually had speakers that have shown the financial performance of a high culture environment is better than Fortune 500 companies. The job scored very high. People in these companies love their job. They like their supervisor, they like the job, they like the teamwork, and teamwork is the final really top area. So let's look at some of the areas that we can improve on. Compensation and benefits is the lowest scoring area. We're going to do a little deep dive in that and talk about that a little bit more. And then we have concerns because the immediate supervisor is one of the areas that we score to see if your employees are engaged. Employees, immediate supervisor, the affinity for the supervisor, and how the performance of the supervisor is are looked at. So that came down 2 points from 16 to 17. So what's going on out there? Are we giving our supervisors too much? Is there more work? Are we not training them? Are we not empowering them? What's going on at that supervisor level that employees view them differently in 17 than they did in 16? Recruitment is an area to focus on. While it's good scores, it could be better. And the leadership actually had really good scores, but us as an organization, we expect those to be in the 90s as far as transparency and trust of senior leaders. We expect that. And I think they're in the high 80s. So we are challenging the best and brightest companies at all of our programs this year to say, hey, look at this. Your C-suite needs to get out there and communicate and be a little bit more transparent. Share the numbers, share the data. Okay. So let me share some of the lowest. So based on employee feedback, 76% think they're paid fairly. Not bad, but these are the best and brightest companies. Imagine what that is if you're not a best and brightest company. Healthcare and insurance meets their needs, 78%. So these are some of our quote-unquote low scores, and they're still almost 80%. I believe the way this company promotes and transfers employees is fair. That could be improved. And then the two lowest areas. I feel I can save enough for retirement is 69%, and the very lowest score is I'm satisfied with the way pay increases are administered. So it's not how we're paying or what we're paying, it's how we're doing it. So we want to challenge the norm here. So this is a homework assignment for all of us. Perhaps the legal way of doing performance appraisals and tying that to salary increases, and the little, you scored a 2, you get this increase, you scored a 3, you get this increase. And I know this is harder for large companies. It's not working. The employees are saying they don't like it. And then the other factor that we are looking at is perhaps it's too subjective. Maybe if that same employee had a different supervisor, they would have a much higher score than the supervisor that they have. So tying performance reviews to compensation needs to be looked at. 97% of the best and brightest companies do formal employee performance and compensation reviews, but only 64% are satisfied with how they're doing it. And remember that number I said in the beginning of the presentation, 33% pay above market. So it's not all about the money. It's how they're doing it, and maybe there needs to be some study there. We're doing some, Jan mentioned our affinity groups. We have peer-to-peer HR affinity groups. We've tasked them with this, with what are the best practices related to compensation and benefits. How can we help improve this? And we're still waiting to get the data back from those. The other thing that I want to challenge everyone on is retirement planning. So 94% of the winners offer profit sharing or a 401k. However, only 69% of the employees feel they have enough for their future. And we mentioned this in our wellness section, the number one stress for employees outside of their work, which comes into their work, is their personal finances. So if you have an employee that can barely pay the bills and they're struggling to get by, how are they going to possibly do the best job for you? So employers, we've seen this a lot. Employers are bringing financial experts in. They're bringing in consulting firms to sit down with people. They're doing workshops. They're doing education. I am hoping that this number changes for 2018. All right, another area. And this is just us as an organization making sure that we're holding these companies accountable. These are very high scores normally. They're in the 80s. I find senior leadership provides honest and open communication. And here's the other one. I believe senior leaders care about what I have to say. Those are in the 80s. That's good. But if you're a best and brightest company to work for, we expect this to be higher. So do your senior leaders provide honest and open communications? If you don't have a minimum of 90% of your employees saying yes, there's a problem. And then the second thing is if your senior leaders don't care about your employees, what are you doing to fix that perception? Because we know they care. These are best and brightest companies. We know they care. But perhaps you're not communicating enough. You know, that example of those webcasts that CEO does, or the lesson of the week. You know, are you doing things like that? Are you showing the CEO interacting with everyone and showing how much they care? So we have some work to do there as well. Okay, now the fun part, the high scoring areas. So this is the employee feedback. These are what the employees are saying. Remember, there was 250,000 employees that we surveyed, and these are the highest scoring areas. Fun, 91% believe their supervisor treats them fairly. Okay, so while I said the supervisor came down a little, it's still very high. 91% enjoy their supervisor experience. Let's not let that slip, though. 94% of employees know what is expected of them in their job, and 90% feel their work challenges them to fully use their skills and knowledge. And what we talk about there is brain food. Are you creating a vehicle for employees to come to you and say, I need a challenge, or I need something different? Are you encouraging those kind of dialogues? All right, 94% have really good teamwork between helping each other out and respecting their thoughts and feelings. 90% feel that their organization welcomes diversity in people and experience and ideas. 90% of employees of the best and brightest are proud to work for their companies. And they feel they can be themselves at work. Isn't that important? More good news, 90% of employees feel that they have a sufficient amount of control over their workday. So we're not micromanaging. That's good. That number went up. 87% of employees would recommend their organization to a friend as a good place to work. 88% of employees feel they are learning and growing on the job. So this is proving that culture really does drive engagement. 86% of employees feel that their company appreciates their work. Okay, that can be a little higher, but it's still a high score. And 88% say their organization contributes to the community. 88% speak highly of their company whenever they get a chance. Can you imagine that? Out of 100 employees, 88 are actively, proactively talking about you and how great you are. Isn't that incredible? So with that, let's go to questions. And Jan, what do we have now?
Hi. People are loving sharing their best practices on here.
That's great.
Yeah, and let me give you a couple. One of the questions was, and I didn't know how to answer this, on your map of the country, there's every state is a different color or close to it. Is there any key to that? Did that mean anything, or
No, it looks good.
It's just a
It's
graphic.
very colorful.
Okay, good.
It's a
All
very
right,
colorful,
good.
happy nation.
All right. This is Cassandra Cook, and she said we have a cards and coins program that encompasses our clients and guests as they come in. The card is a business card that states magic is in the details, and it's presented to each guest after assisting a client, or each guest, it must be staff after assisting the guest. And on the back, it has a special email that the guest can write in explaining the great customer service that they experienced. This email, in turn, turns into an ambassador award. And it's also a great way to connect guests and clients. The coin portion is something we give to our clients when we see them or experience great service from one of the team members. They give the employee the coin. And the employee gets to keep the gold coin and, I just lost it, and turn the tag that was attached.
So what's unique about that is they're engaging their clients or customers into the making their employees feel appreciated. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's
wonderful.
What I thought was unique.
Yeah, and who shared that one?
Cassandra, is that what I said? Cassandra Cook.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
What else?
And she also said thank you for the great webinar.
You got it, Cassandra.
I see a couple with the new hire buddy program, or the job shadow kind of thing for a new hire, so that they have a best friend to work with as soon as they start the company. Helps the new hires get to know the culture better and expand their knowledge outside their department. And then we have Ashley Woodford
says, for that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hang on, Jen. Let me just talk to that for a second. So having a best friend at your job is, there's some survey folks out there that think that's the #1 driver of engagement and happiness in employment. And I would just caution everyone to be really careful not to structure those too much, but to create environments where they can meet people that they have a natural affinity for. The mentoring programs, I would really encourage those for education and being an ambassador for that employee formally. So you just got to be real careful with those, but that's a very good example that was shared. Thank you.
And then the last part of her comment said we have a quarterly buddy event where all the new buddies get together and do something fun. So that's
good.
Cool
so
too.
There's the social element. That's perfect. That's great. Great.
Amber Sanchez says, most of these companies seem to have more than 100 employees. What can a smaller company do with less resources?
Okay, so that is not true. We have an even number of winners between small, medium, and large. A lot of these companies were actually small. I gave a lot of examples of really creative, low-budget things. Food, and more food, wellness punch cards. I can tell you some of the stuff that we do here. We're a small business too. We have Slipper Thursday. We have days where we dress up in a certain color. We had Plaid Day. We wear red noses on Clown Day. So there's so many things that you can do, and I would encourage the person that asked that question to put an employee committee together and grab the resource guide. There's hundreds of examples of low-budget items.
Elizabeth Jacoby says, at Co-Staff Services, we have holiday paid day off for your birthday. And if it falls on a weekend, you get a different day.
Oh, that's great. All right. All right, Jan, I will
see if
let
there was anything else.
I will let you pick our winner for the best question and the best practice. You might want to just randomly draw that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to tell everyone about the Best Practices Resource Guide and how to nominate a company. Again, we're in 10 markets across the country. And we have a national competition. I will tell you this, if you're going for the national competition, the scoring is much more stringent. We have the peer-to-peer affinity groups in the 10 regions, and now we're launching our national peer-to-peer affinity group that will link up digitally. And the Best Practices Resource Guide can be found at thebestandbrightest.com, as well as information on us. And then I would encourage you to check out all the fun stuff that's going on with our hashtag and all of our social media. Hashtag 101BB, that's the hashtag we use throughout the year, hashtag 101BB, and see what's going on. And we occasionally post some of these best practices. And just a couple more ideas too for low budget things. Employees love to see the C-suite be in regular compromising roles. So whatever you can do to embarrass them would be wonderful. They love it. And then they love it, so a lot of C-suite with and a trend that's happening, a lot of companies like Thursday at 4 o'clock or Friday at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock depending on your hours, the C-suite hosts a little social hour. We see a lot of barbecues where they're flipping burgers. We see a lot of flipping and pancakes in the morning. Get your C-suite involved and get them exposed. Those are some of the best low-budget engagement because it kills a lot of birds with one stone. All right, Jan, where are we at?
Man. Okay, I'm going to go with Lisa Gonzalez for the best practice with the weekly yoga and organic fruit delivery.
Fun.
And I'm going to go with Ashley Woodford for the best question is about how to decide that we're meeting employees' needs and interests and will it be successful. So you answered that with, forming the committee and obviously you get feedback by participating in the Best and Brightest companies surveys.
And were there any important questions that we didn't cover?
I would say we probably covered it all. Any companies mention anything for Customer Service Week?
Customer Service Week. We can look into that for you. That's coming from Elizabeth. All right, get Elizabeth's email and we'll look into that for her.
All right.
All right. Very good. And the resource guide is free to winners.